My talk is definitely not as funny as Emma's, but I'm going to use some of her jokes and pigeon off of it because they were really good. So I'm going to be talking about keyword clustering, which some of you know about, some of you don't. The idea is here that those who do know what it is, there's some cool ways you can use it you might not have thought about. Those of you who don't know what it is, maybe you'll find some ways to use it that you haven't thought about either. That's what I was saying here. Cool. So a little bit about me just before I go into it. I've been in it for at least 10 years. I've worked in agency and in-house. And then I actually grew my own startup to a turnover of 2.5 million when I was 25. That was through all this stuff I talk about today. So we did a lot of content marketing when I owned my first company, and I then sold that and got into SEO. I have no idea why I did that. And then, most importantly, I'm co-founder of Keyword Insights, which is the platform. We're trying to get away from this idea we're a keyword clustering platform, which is what people know us as. We help you make topic authority, but that's a whole separate talk. But a big part of it is keyword clustering. And as I said, this talk is about some cool ways you can use keyword clustering to do some cool shit you never thought you might be able to do. I've had a chat with a few of you already. Some of them's like you have cannibalisation issues. That's something we can solve really easily with keyword clustering. Okay, so for those who don't know, what is it? So keyword clustering is the process of gathering similar keywords into groups. So really easily, and this is quite a small screenshot, when you've done your keyword research for whatever niche you're in, you might end up with a list of 5, 10, 100, 200,000 keywords, and it looks like this. It's just some big list with loads of volume. And you go, where the fuck do I begin with this? Like, it's just a massive list. So what keyword clustering does is it will group all the similar keywords together into something that looks like this. So you can see here, burglar. I can never say burglars. Home burglary. Now, casing a house. You can see there's at least 20 keywords that all mean the same thing that can be grouped together. So keyword clustering is really useful for like, shit, I've got 100,000 keywords. How many pages do I actually need to create out of this? Because if you've got 100,000 keywords, I can bet you only probably need about 1,000 pages to target all those keywords. So that's what keyword clustering does. It makes this big list into something more manageable. There are two main methods of doing it. You've got a SERP-based clusterer and semantic or NLP clustering. Now a SERP-based clusterer, it basically, for each keyword you upload, it scrapes Google or another search engine, and it works out how many URLs are in common, and it groups them together. An NLP, or semantic-based clusterer, it uses, NLP, natural language processing, so it groups keywords based on an algorithm's understanding of that keyword. There are pros and cons. So for NLP, or semantic clustering, it's normally cheap or free. There's thousands of people posting thousands of scripts about how you can cluster all these keywords using this free NLP script, which is great. It's cheap or free, and it does help. The big con is that we operate in Google's world, and if you're an SEO or you're building a website and you want to optimize towards that, it doesn't account for that. And I'll show you an example later about where it doesn't quite work. The opposite is true with SERP-based clustering. We operate in Google's world, so we want to see what Google's optimizing for. What keywords would it group together? So it's a lot more accurate for that. The con is that it's always going to cost something. We've got to scrape Google as our tool, so it's going to cost us money and it's going to cost you money. So there's pros and cons to both. There are some really cool things if you're optimizing towards search engines that you can do with a SERP-based clustering tool. And this is what this talks about. If you've used keyword clustering before, you'll probably know, okay, I can group keywords together. If you have used it before, I'm going to show you some other cool shit you can do with it. If you haven't, maybe it's going to give you some ideas about what you can do with it. So the first thing, and I think I spoke to, was it Chris somewhere? Yeah, about solving keyword cannibalisation. So this is a case study. I'm going to give you case studies. I like doing case studies because it helps you It helps you can do more with it. So this was a client we had in America. They're called Zero Down, and they wanted to rank for all these different, they had all these different, we call them keyword pages. So homes for sale in California, houses for sale in California, properties for sale in California, log cabins for sale in California, wood cabin, etc., etc. They had 400 of these keyword pages, 2-bedroom houses, 3-bedroom houses, 4-bedroom houses, in every city, every postcode, every state, everything in America. So their site was about 50 million URLs big. It was a massive, massive site. And when we were looking in their search console, they couldn't get off page 2 for anything, and they had really good domain authority. It was just like everything was bouncing around. They couldn't get off page 2. So we thought there was two issues. Number one was crawl budget. it's a massive site. It's 50 million URLs. Now, anyone who tells you crawl budget's an issue, if the site is under, I'm going to call it 1 million URLs, it's normally not an issue. But crawl budget is an issue when you start getting to 50 million URLs. If you don't know what crawl budget is, it's just like Googlebot will come to your site, it will bounce around for a bit, and then it'll piss off when it gets bored. So crawl budget was a big issue because it's a huge site. The other one was keyword cannibalisation. So if you don't know what keyword cannibalisation is, it's where you have loads of very similar keywords vying for the same, I guess, intent, and you end up not ranking for anything because Google doesn't know which page to rank. So this is a good example. They had homes for sale California, houses for sale California, homes for sale California, and properties for sale California. They had those 3 pages. And remember, they had this across every state, every postcode. It's huge. We got this little feature in Keyword Insights where we can spot check them called SERP similarity. So we plugged those 3 keywords in, and we noticed there was a 70% SERP overlap. Like 70% of the results were the same. So we definitely didn't need those 3 across every state, every postcode, every city, every whatever. So there's a load of pages straight away we didn't need. They had flats for sale California and apartments for sale California. They didn't need those 2 either. So how can we mass check that across all these states, all these postcodes, all these cities? Well, we can cluster them. And so you can see here, we clustered, we just got all their keyword pages. So you can see they had cabin homes for sale in California, in Texas, in wherever, chalets for sale, log homes for sale, rustic homes for sale. They could all be combined into one. They had cheap homes for sale, affordable homes for sale, cheap houses for sale, starter homes for sale. They could all be rolled into one. And we just did that across every keyword category they had. And we ended up redirecting about 15 million URLs. It was a massive thing. And I'll be honest, I got like a squeaky bum moment. It was quite scary. But it worked. We solved cannibalization en masse, and we saw a 110% increase in organic traffic over the course of 3 or 4 months because there was no more crawl budget issue. We literally reduced their site by 15 million URLs, and there's no more keyword cannibalization issue. Google doesn't need to work out which one of these 3 to rank, houses, homes, or properties. They're all just needed to be into one. So really good case study there about how you can use clustering to group categories together. We see this in a lot of niches. I just gave you like a property niche, but we see it in e-commerce. Like whenever I'm on Etsy, I see this category dining tables for sale and kitchen and dining tables for sale. I can guarantee they don't need those 2. And I don't know how many other categories they've got like that, but they probably don't. I saw it on travel sites. They've got chalets for sale in Colorado and cabins for sale in Colorado, to rent. Chalets to rent in Colorado and cabins to rent in Colorado. I bet those 2 mean the same thing and they don't need that category. And I wonder how many more categories they've got like that. I bet I could reduce both of these sites by about 15 million URLs. So it's really good for like quickly grouping loads of similar categories together in e-commerce, in travel, in wherever you are. There's an easier way to do it as well. If your site's slightly smaller, I bet that is very pertinent to massive e-commerce or travel sites. But this is another case study for keyword cannibalization and for smaller blog sites. So we were coming across this site. It was a client of ours, and they had top 20 most followed Instagram users in 2023 and top 20 most followed Instagram accounts. And we're like, and if you look at the dates, that was written in 2023, that was in 2022. All that's happening is they're just not updating the piece from the previous year, they're just doing another one. And we were like, okay, shit, I wonder how many more examples of this you have. This is just a content-based site, relatively small, maybe 1,000 pages. So this sort of technique works really well for smaller sites. So the first thing we did was just like, okay, let's grab this sitemap. You can see all the URLs there. And then we turned the URLs into keywords. So this is just a simple formula we use to do that. You can grab this off, or you can ask ChatGPT to make it now. Basically, turn this URL into the keyword it would be, just by getting rid of the HTTPS, the colon, all of that shit. If you don't have a really good URL, you could also just pull the H1 or just pull the page title from Screaming Frog. You could do either one of those ways. Basically, what is the keyword this URL is trying to attract? And then we clustered the keywords. I'm using inverted commas there because it's actually URLs we're clustering. And then we use VLOOKUP to turn the keyword back into a URL. And you can start to see how all of these can be combined into one. So top 20 most followed Instagram accounts and most followed Instagram users 2023, that can all be redirected into one. This Instagram algorithm, we had Instagram algorithm and how does the Instagram algorithm work? That can be combined into that one. best time to post on Instagram and best time to post on Instagram and it's a comprehensive guide, that could be rolled into one. So we basically turned the URL into a keyword and grouped them together, and we quickly saw that. We see that a lot with franchises. So this was the Arbor company is a big franchise based in America, and it's a senior care living, and their main domain is arborliving.com, and then each franchise gets a subfolder, so locations, Texas, whatever. And because content isn't centralized, there's no one person telling what franchise to write what content. They all end up writing the same shit. So this is a case of what you start to see here. You can see here, locations, Virginia, Herndon, locations, Texas. They're all making the same content because the central place isn't telling them what content to create. And they ended up cannibalizing themselves en masse. They've got about, I'm not going to, there's about 18 guides there all trying to vie for the same keyword. And that's keyword cannibalization. So we see it a lot with franchises. That's a really good use case for keyword clustering. Keyword mapping is another good use case. So we're going to use the same technique we've just done before, and that is tokenizing the URL, making the URL into the keyword that we want to target. Start by turning the URLs into keywords. So this was a use case we did for Airwick. Actually, this was for their PPC team, but you can do it for SEO if you want to map keywords to a page. Their PPC team had basically said, we've got a load of pages and they've got a load of keywords we want to bid on, but we don't know if any of these keywords can be mapped to what pages and what pages we need to create. So what we did is we grabbed the URLs of what Airwick had, we turned it into what the keyword should be. We added this little exclamation mark to the end of each keyword. There's a reason we did that, which I'll come back to. And then we gave each keyword a really high search volume. Again, I'll explain why we did that in a second. This is basically hacking our tool and any other clustering tool. They all work in the same way. So tokenize the keyword, put a little exclamation mark at the end, and give it a really high search volume. That's all you need to know for now. And then you cluster them. And the reason we gave it an exclamation mark is most clustering tools, including our own, they name the cluster after the keyword with the most volume. So that's why we gave it a lot of volume. So we want to make sure if this URL is in the cluster with a lot of volume, it's going to be named after that. And if we give it an exclamation mark, we know we've got a URL for that. So basically, when you're now looking at our report, every time you see this, remember, it's going to be named after that because it's got the most volume with an exclamation mark. You know that we've got a page for it, and all the keywords in your PPC or whatever, your keyword research, are going to be mapped to it. And then, providing you've combined this with your, the rest of your keyword research, you can also see all the ones you don't have a page for. Because I'm not long of time, I can't really explain how that works properly, but hoping that made sense. But if you cluster if you tokenize your URLs, make sure you can identify them in your data set, and then cluster them with all your other keywords. It's a really quick way of mapping which URLs to which keywords you already have, long story short. I can talk more about how you do that, but really good thing for PPC and SEO that way. There's also this thing called keyword uncannibalization, which is an interesting point. I spoke to you earlier about NLP and how if you use the semantic or an NLP-based algorithm, sometimes it doesn't reflect, we might think two keywords mean the same thing, but it doesn't. So here's a good example. Vaporizer accessories and vaporizer parts. Most vape companies, and for some reason we had a period where we had a lot of vape clients, most vape companies have a page which targets both of those keywords in one. Vaporizer accessories and replacement parts. Vape parts, vape accessories. They mean the same thing to you and I, so we would try and target both those keywords on the same page. And NLP would put them in the same page as well. Same with skateboard wheel and skateboard wheels. Just because one is plural of the other one, actually the results are very different. If you Google skateboard wheel and skateboard wheels, you get some very transactional results for skateboard wheels, and for skateboard wheel, it's more informational. It tells you what it's about. And NLP would have put those two keywords together. A SERP-based clusterer tells you, actually, these two are very different in intent. And you can see that vape accessories and vape parts, for some reason, have triggered very different results. So we call it keyword uncannibalization, because it's almost like, oh, actually, I need to break this out into 2 pages if I want to rank for them. So that's another good use case for keyword clustering. Discovering content opportunities. So this is the main, mainstay of what we do. The first one is we can use it to find content gaps very, very quickly. 5 minutes, so I'll brush through this one. But let's say in a hypothetical scenario, HubSpot come to me and say, we want to own the topic of keyword research. We want to own that topic. Now, HubSpot have 37,600 blogs. if I came on as a consultant, I wouldn't even know where to begin to find what HubSpot don't, where are there gaps on that? So what we start doing is we just get an indiscriminate keyword universe. I don't care where my keywords go. So I used to spend ages like trying to add filters in Ahrefs or SEMrush. I want to like get all the terms related to keyword research and add all these filters. Now it takes me 5 minutes. I just go into Ahrefs, SEMrush, I type in keyword research, I pull all the possible keywords to do with that. I just grab them all. It takes me 5-10 minutes. And then I whack them into a keyword clustering tool. One specifically where you can track the rank, burglary, where you can track the rank. So what this is going to do, if you follow my logic here, I'm plugging 10,000 keywords to do with keyword research into a clustering algorithm. So it's going to group all the ones together, and then I'm going to cross-check where I currently rank for them. And straight away, you can now filter for all the clusters you don't rank for, and they're your content gaps. So what used to take me hours and hours and hours to see like what topics don't I rank for, I just pull as many keywords as possible, upload them, group them together, and then I can filter out all the ones that my domain doesn't rank for. Very quickly to find, very easily and quickly way to find content gaps. The other way is content fragmentation, and this is a really good way of, I wanted to put this in because this is how we outrank Forbes for a lot of things. So let's say Latham Security Doors came to me and said, I want to rank for, I want content ideas around high security front doors. Inherently, this is a really boring product, and I couldn't think of anything to do with it. So I was like, okay, what problem does high security front doors solve? Well, it solves residential burglary. So we can create a content plan around residential burglary because that is related to the product of high security front doors. So if I get them in, I can sell them into it. Cool. Now, this article here ranks for 365 keywords. You can maybe just see it there. But it didn't mean to, and it doesn't rank in number 1 for 365 keywords. It probably ranks for a broad cross-section. And actually, when you look at the next shot, Ahrefs toolbar was shit because it's actually 241 keywords. But it ranks for 241 keywords, and it's like a real mix of position 12, 11, 8, 5, 9, 10. So it's like it's a spread between all these different keywords. And this is where we call it this content fragmentation. If we can pull all these, so what this is saying is when I'm scanning down here, is it ranks fairly well for a lot of keywords. If we create really super hyper-focused pieces on each one of these, where they can be broken out, we can rank number 1 for a lot more of them. Content fragmentation, keyword fragmentation. How can we pull all the keywords this ranks for and fragment it out into separate pieces? So we downloaded these 241 keywords, and then we cluster them. It's 25 when you cluster them. Remember, we're a SERP-based clusterer, so we're literally scraping the search engines for those 241 keywords. So what we're saying is, if you broke this 241 keywords into 25 separate pieces of content, you're going to rank better for each individual keyword than that one overall. And as I said, this is a really great strategy when you want to compete with people like Forbes. Here's a good example. Forbes' top 10 cryptocurrencies ranks for 5,700 keywords. 5,700. And that ranges from position 1 to position 10 to position 6 to position 5. If you downloaded those 5,700 keywords and then clustered them, you can see just how many specific articles you should break that out into. And okay, that'll get more traffic overall, but your 50-odd pieces will get more traffic cumulatively. Burglary. Can't do it. But yeah, really good way of separating and fragmenting out and starting to rank for more. Zero volume keywords. This is one of the best case studies we've had. We had a Symphonic MD, which is a skincare brand, brand new, venture capitalist backed, so they had a bit of money, but brand new domain, and they were like, we are completely new to this. How do we rank for something where we have no authority? Just realized I didn't have that on my face. How do we insert ourselves into this conversation that is incredibly difficult? Well, we started thinking about it, and we're like, well, everyone has access to the same tools that everyone else does. Everyone can use Ahrefs, everyone can use SEMrush. So where do we go to find the keywords our competitors aren't looking at? We started looking at Reddit. And for a beauty brand, but almost for any niche you can think of, there is a subreddit. But for a beauty brand, there's a lot. There's beauty, there's skincare addiction, there's loads. And as we started scanning through these subreddits, we saw the same question coming up, slightly wordedly differently, but they were coming up time and time again. And you've got to put yourself into the mindset of someone going to Reddit, right? they're asking a question on Reddit because they can't find that question elsewhere online. So if you can start finding all these questions that are being asked repeatedly and grouping them together, you can see where I'm going with this, we start to see actually questions that aren't zero volume, but they're just being asked 1,000 different ways. And that's what we did. So we scraped Reddit for this. We scraped all these subreddits, and you can start to see these. So like, these are just, we have thousands of ideas. But this is one big cluster just to do with small red dots over itchy, flaky skin. Like, all zero volume if you put them into a keyword research tool, but it's just the same question being asked time and time again. Same with this one, same with this one, same with this one. So we just created content around these. You can enrich it, little plug to Mark. If you then, if you then plug all of these back through People Also Ask, it then gets a load of more zero volume questions that are actually backed up by Google. So it bulked your data out even more, and this is something that we do. And then you create a whole content plan around that. This domain, skincare brand, still has absolutely no authority. This was taken 3 months ago. It's now at about 10,000. It works. We're creating content that our competitors haven't even thought about because we're just scraping resources that they aren't writing about. It's the clustering that groups that together. I haven't, in fact, I'm out of time, but if you scan that, we actually created a free, it is completely free. If you go on Reddit Insights, you can plug all your subreddits into it, and it will pull all the questions for you. So yeah, we did that off the back of this because we're doing it a lot now. So that's a free tool for you to use. But in the first instance, you can do that with Search Console. So if you want to scrape Reddit, a good, I guess, technique is that in your own Search Console, there's loads of really, really small impression keywords that you would have normally ignored. If you pull all those keywords and group them together, these little 10 impression keywords here and there actually build up, and cumulatively, there's a burglar. There's a lot of keywords you can group together and write content about. I know Mark said this was a talk not to sell. We're going to do a little sell. If you have, but it is free. In Keyword Insights, we do have a completely free to use Search Console integration, and we'll download more than 1,000 keywords. So if you've used Search Console integration before, you only get 1,000 keywords. We'll pull 500,000 keywords. We'll pull whatever data you've got. So really cool way to pull all those queries and then cluster them, hopefully. I'm not going to sell that. That is too silly. We also can help you write the content. That's too silly. So anyway, summary, keyword clustering can and should be used in some pretty clever ways. So hopefully now, those who didn't, you know that it's grouping a load of keywords together. If you did know, then cool, but there's some other cool things you can do with it. So finding keyword cannibalisation instances by like tokenizing the URL or grabbing the page title and grouping them. Keyword uncannibalisation opportunities, so understanding that, oh, these keywords don't actually mean the same thing. We should create 2 pages. Keyword mapping, I went through that part very quickly in the talk, but it's basically, if you are very clever with how you tag your URLs, you can group all your keywords to it and then map which pages they go to. And then helping generally with your keyword research and content planning by letting you group loads of zero volume keywords together to work out that it's not actually zero volume. Quickly finding content gaps by plugging a load of keywords in, adding your domain, and then filtering out all the clusters you don't rank for. And then content fragmentation, that idea of, okay, this ranks #1 for 1,000 keywords, but I bet I could fragment this into about 10 different content topics and rank #1 for all of them. And that is, I think, everything. Questions?
Round of applause.
That's quick.